Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Charmed Season 1, Episode 10, Wicca Envy. Episode in a nutshell is a brief summary of exactly what will happen within this episode. Rex and Hannah frame Prue for stealing a tiara in a plot to get the sisters to relinquish their powers to them, and Leo reveals that he will need to leave soon, while he and Piper have just begun to see each other seriously. After rewatching the episode, we rank the episode on two lists, a mostly objective ranking list, absent emotion, but still including some bias and judgment, and then the personal ranking, which is opinion and emotion based. All right, so as always, we start the rankings with the mostly objective rank values, and I've highlighted those I felt applied to this episode. The first thing that I felt applied to this episode, starting with the positives, was the multi-episode supporting character growth. This, of course, has to do with Rex and Hannah. We've seen hints of some powers before. However, this episode, we see that Rex has gotten a new power, which is astral projection, which is a power allowing him to basically show up in like a spiritual form that's not able to be seen by the sisters or any mortals. And he's able to plant subliminal suggestions in the minds of those he is around, which allows him to manipulate Prue into taking a tiara without knowing it, hiding the tiara thinking it's her date book, tricks Phoebe into thinking an apartment is grandiose when it's all an illusion, makes her think it's real, even suggests to her a premonition that she believes she has before she goes and gets it. And it's shown that the only one who actually seems to be able to know that he is there is Kit the cat, who hisses at him, which surprises Prue when he was trying to watch her get ready for bed. He also shows a bit of a perversion in that he also uses the power on Hannah. However, because Hannah and Rex are an established couple, I don't think that that's like, I mean, it's a bit icky, but at the same time, they are an established couple, so I'm not going to call it terrible overall. But he gets a new power. We also, for the first time, get to see that Hannah is able to shapeshift into a panther, and this is worth 2 points. We next get our resolved subplot, which of course is the Rex and Hannah plot. Rex and Hannah, they've been kind of side characters who have been hinted at being baddies and have helped some of the baddies like Matthew throughout the other episodes. However, ultimately, this is the one episode where they really took action on their own, end result being that Hannah kills Rex, and then they are both engulfed in flames while Hannah yells about how she didn't fail, he did. And this, of course, is hinting at there being a controlling force or a higher authority than Rex and Hannah that we've seen so far on the bad side. But either way, that subplot was resolved, which was another 2 points, bringing us to 4. And then we have some supporting relationship development. Supporting relationships are typically like those single episode relationships or the relationships that you know are not going to be an end game. And in this case, we have Rex and Phoebe kind of starting to date. They go to a concert together. He sends her flowers. He invites her to a dinner party, which ends up being an excuse for a date for both of them. He even gets her a lead on a potential job opportunity. But ultimately, that entire relationship was for the purpose of upsetting Prue and setting up Prue and the sisters in a bid to get their powers, but it still is some development in a supporting relationship capacity, so that also is worth 2 points, bringing us up to the 6 points. And then we have our higher point positives. One is that we have world building, which is that we have the introduction of orbing into the world, which of course is one of the alternative modes of transport that some magical beings have. And it once again, kind of like in the last episode, we had blinking introduced. This episode, we have orbing introduced. And so they're starting to build up that world of magical transport, essentially. And that was worth 4 points, which brings us up to 10 out of 10. We then have the additional points of our main relationship development, which is, of course, is Piper and Leo. And we basically open the story. The sisters, Prue and Phoebe, return from shopping to find Leo and Piper on their way upstairs. Piper freezes them, slides across the floor, basically says that she thought she had the house to herself, and basically has the sisters hide while she and Leo do make their way upstairs, obviously implying that they have become physically intimate, so they've reached that point in their relationship. It's also revealed the next day that Piper accidentally froze Leo in panic due to how long it's been, and it was accidental the first time, which of course implies that she's using her powers while they're physically intimate as well, which I think is just a funny little tidbit that they've added. But obviously, finally, we've gotten that progression to they are officially together, and they have made it to that point where they are even physically together. So that again is another 4 points. So that's 14 out of 10. And then the last positive for this episode is the multi-season main character development. And that, of course, is with Leo. So we find out that Leo is not, in fact, mortal handyman that we thought he was, but in fact is something else, though it has not yet been confirmed what he is. In the series, at least, obviously, as rewatchers, we know what he is. But at this point in the series, we don't know what he is. We just know that he is not human. We see him using telekinesis to open up drawers and chests in the attic and close them again. We see him using his healing hands to heal the Book of Shadows after it goes blank when the sisters do the relinquishment spell. When the sisters do the relinquishment spell. And then we also see him at the end of the episode as he's leaving, opening the door and then orbing away while the door closes behind him. So once again showing that mode of transportation. And that brings us up to 18 total on the positive sides. But there are a few negatives on this episode as well that apply. So we obviously have our supporting relationship regression or breakup, which is again the Rex and Phoebe relationship. Obviously, the relationship was fake on his part. He was with Hannah the whole time. It was basically just to upset Prue and give the opportunity to be alone with Phoebe to plant the premonition and whatnot. So that kind of cancels out the relationship development with the regression or breakup. So we have basically a -2 that applies there. And similarly, we have the main relationship regression or breakup, which of course is Leo and Piper as well. At the beginning of the episode, we get the development of that relationship, but by the end of the episode, because he is not human and we later find out that, like he's like the reasons why, but anyways, he basically tells Piper that he has to leave and he has to return home. He does say that he may be back again to give her hope, but it is implying that he, like, just after they've started, now he has to leave as he's fixed everything that needs to be fixed. And this, of course, brings us back another step within the same episode. We took a step forward with Leo leaving, which is a -3 points. And then our last point is worth -4. And I'll be honest, at first I wasn't sure if I was going to include it or not, but I felt that based on my recollection and memory of the series, Leo having like telekinesis to be able to like move things with his mind, like Prue does, is not a standard white lighter power, and I don't think we see him using powers like that going forward in the series. The orbing, the healing, those are things that he does continue to display, but I do not, to the best of my recollection, recall that he uses telekinesis at any other point in the series, nor do I believe that that is a standard white lighter power that is present in the series going forward. So I believe that that is a continuity error. I may be wrong, but at this point, that is what I believe. That is what my memory is telling me, and so I am counting it. And that was -4 points, which brings us overall for this episode to a mostly objective score of 9 out of 10. And so, with that score in place, as a reminder of our season 1 rankings so far, in first place we have Something Wicked This Way Comes, I've Got You Under My Skin. This episode falls into third place, Wicked Envy, and then Dead Man Dating, Dream Sorcerer, The Witch is Back, Thank You for Not Morphing, The Truth is Out There and It Hurts, The Wedding from Hell, and then in 10th place we have The Fourth Sister. So for my personal rankings overall, I will give my opinions first. Which, oh my goodness, I've lost my train of thought. Give me a moment. So, couple highlights of this episode. We have, as mentioned, not Piper, Prue and Phoebe have gone shopping, and one of the first scenes we get in the episode is a bit of a fashion montage of Prue trying on all her new clothes, and then when she goes downstairs, Phoebe is wearing one of her old suits from her old wardrobe, and Phoebe makes a joke about how she is recycling. And I just feel like that's an excellent callback to when they were making their dream guys, her and Piper. She specifically noted how her dream guy would recycle, and here she is, once again, recycling Prue's old wardrobe. Initially, Prue tells her to take it off, but she doesn't actually take it off. She does continue to wear the suit into Buckland's with Prue. Obviously, Rex purposefully flirts with Phoebe and starts to see her and go out with her a little bit, specifically to make Prue uncomfortable. And obviously, this calls back to Roger, how the reason that Roger and Prue broke up was that he led her to believe that he had had some sort of relation with Phoebe. And now here is her boss once again having some sort of flirtation or relation with Phoebe. Understandable why she would be upset and uncomfortable about it, especially because of the fact that it is a situation she's been in before, and it is a fake relationship, at least on Rex's part. We then have the Andy Daryl saga, which is, of course, them investigating the tiara. We have, obviously, the initial Daryl worrying about Andy's conflict of interest because, once again, the crime that they are investigating involves Prue, and honestly, at this point, how she isn't somebody that they find suspicious is shocking because this is pretty much every episode from 1 to 10 they have investigated a crime that in some way, at least peripherally, involves Prue. So at this point I'd be like, she hasn't actually been proven to have done anything, but boy is she coming up frequently. And I'd start seeing like alarm bells by this point. But of course, we don't know how much time has passed between episodes, as it's rarely mentioned in the episodes, so it could have been over the course of months, but even so, like it's still within the same year, I would say. And that is a lot of crimes. That's at least like 10, because it's episode 10, and Andy and Daryl in some way have been in pretty much most of these episodes. Obviously, there was the funny house search where Andy and Daryl bring a warrant, search Prue's room, and Piper has to keep freezing them, moving the tiara around, and then Rex in his astral form keeps telling them where they've moved it to, and it's back and forth, and they both end up frustrated to the point where Rex basically calls Piper a miserable witch, and then she says that she has a sudden urge to call a shrink for some reason, because of course he can plant the suggestion, which was pretty funny. I also like the fact that when Prue is set up, Andy is the one who knows that she couldn't possibly be guilty of it. So even though Daryl is like, well, you stopped seeing her for a reason, and that was that you felt she was keeping something from you. Could this be what she was keeping from you, the secret life of crime? And of course, Andy denies that, and he says that it's too easy. She must be being set up, and he's the one who goes that extra mile to try to prove her innocence by going through all of the evidence again and looking up the actual Hannah and Rex, discovering that they are different people and that they had passed away before Prue was hired, showing that they are likely the ones who are framing Prue, which in the end, when he comes to release Prue from the prison, basically by that point, the tiara was back in Rex's office and they weren't who they said they were. They apparently had been kind of skimming money from the auction house or not running it properly. So they were suggesting on Andy and Daryl's theory that they were basically trying to make one last heist before they cut out and framing Prue in the process. And obviously they haven't found Rex and Hannah yet because they are deceased at this point, not that they know that. Though he does note the picture that Rex took when Phoebe and Piper broke Prue out of the prison in order to relinquish their powers per Rex's plan. He took a Polaroid of them, and of course, Andy asks her about finding that Polaroid in the office, and she just laughs and says that that she's very photogenic, but of course, they don't really have an explanation for it, and he's not given one because she is in the prison when they go to find her, or jail, I should say, because it's like the jailhouse at the actual station, not a legitimate separate prison building. But that's semantics. And we also find out that Rex and Hannah aren't who they say they are as well, because when she's starting to get suspicious of being framed, Prue also in Buckland's own employee system looks up Rex and Hannah and it comes up with no listing, so that's also worth mentioning. Now, the one downside I felt to this episode that I felt was kind of tragic was there was a security guard named Jaime who, spoke with Prue, assured her that he knows she couldn't possibly have done it. He was so sweet and nice and told her like she's the most hardworking person he knows. And then Hannah and Rex, in order to up the stakes on getting Prue arrested or putting Prue in a situation that would force her and her sisters to give up their powers, kills him. And I'm like, that's so tragic because just in one conversation, he won me over. I thought he was so sweet and now he's dead and it's tragic. I did not enjoy that. I mean, it didn't hit me super hard, but it was something that I was like, oh, that's just so unfortunate. It's not fair. But anyways, a couple other call out highlight moments. Prue was being a little bit harassed in prison, and then she uses her power to throw him onto the jail bed. And she does this little smirk when he looks at her in fear while he hugs his pillow. I thought that was hilarious. Well, not hilarious, but very funny. The lantern device that is supposed to catch all of their powers when they perform the relinquishment spell is the cheapest looking thing I've ever seen. It's like a toy lantern. I'm like, they do such good effects given the time period. It was like 1998 on a TV show's budget. And given that, I feel like the effects were really good. But like this toy lantern, it's just like something you could have picked up from a dollar store is what it looked like. Like the little garden section in the dollar store. It looked like something out of there. Not the greatest look. Obviously, after they do the relinquishing spell, the book goes blank because the book is part of their powers. And this, of course, is what Leo goes in to heal later. And when he heals it, the book refills with all of the spells and other information, which also gives the sisters back their powers so that they can then basically, when Hannah jumps at them, Piper's able to freeze her. Then they move Rex into the way. Hannah kills Rex. She's upset about it, and then she and him both get engulfed in flames from the underworld and basically vanquished by the bad guys, their own side, which again hints to the bigger bad that will be upcoming. And then at the very end of the episode, they burn the page that has a relinquishment spell so that it cannot be used against them in the future. Very clever, very smart. However, when she holds up the page, I noticed I couldn't see exactly what it was, but there is something written on the back of that page. And I'm like, what if that spell is important? What if that's a demon that they're going to face in the future and they've burned it? I think it was a bit of an oversight for them not to like look at it. And since they knew from Melinda in the last episode, they could have just copied the spell onto a different page so that they don't lose both spells. It just seems like a bit of an oversight for them to burn the relinquishment spell without knowing what was on the next page and on the back of the page as it was double-sided. But that's a minor thing, something I noticed. And overall, I liked the episode. I felt that it was very entertaining. There were a couple of negatives, but they were very nitpicky kind of negatives. Most of the other negatives seem to kind of be part of the episode, like that they needed to happen for the episode, so I don't really personally resent most of the negatives. Overall, a 9 out of 10 episode, I felt. Very strong, especially as Rex and Hannah's last hurrah of the series. And so, as a reminder of our season 1 rankings, so far on the personal ranking, we have in first place Dead Man Dating, The Witch is Back. This episode gets third place, Wicca Envy. Then it's The Truth is Out There and It Hurts, Something Wicca This Way Comes, Dream Sorcerer, Thank You for Not Morphing, I've Got You Under My Skin, The Wedding from Hell, and then perpetually last place is my least favorite episode of the entire series, The Fourth Sister. And so that now brings us to our final segment of the video, which is our series ranking overall, which is where we're ranking each of the seasons against each other. This is where the number scores are important. And with this episode, we scored a mostly objective of 9, which brings us to 62 out of 220 on our mostly objective list. And then on the personal side, we have ranked it at a 9. And that brings us to a total of 64 out of 220. And with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Charmed Season 1, Episode 10, Wicca Envy. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.